Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us for tonight's spotlight on New York Times cooking. My name is Lisa. I'm with the Tampa-Hillsborough County Public Library, and I'm joined tonight by one of our awesome branch programmers, Carice. Carice, thank you so much for putting together this super fun program.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to introduce this new resource to everyone and also to talk to you guys a little bit more about the Mexican hot chocolate that we are making. Alrighty, so as Lisa said, it is a New York Times cooking spotlight that we are doing today. This is a new resource brought to you by the library. So you're probably asking yourself, what is New York Times Cooking? Well, New York Times Cooking is a subscription service of the New York Times. It's a digital cookbook and cooking guide alike, available on all platforms that helps home cooks of every level discover, save, and organize the world's best recipes, while also helping them become better, more competent cooks. And it's comprised of reporters and columnists and chefs, several of which are award-winning, Pulitzer Prize-winning cookbook authors and passionate home cooks and professionals alike. And through the library, you do get a 24-hour free access code to this wonderful resource. And the books here that we have on the screen are all available through the library as well. So check out the catalog to see if any of those titles interest you.
I love looking through our on order list, see what new cookbooks are coming out. I love being the first person to get them, so I always look on the library website to see when the new cookbooks are being ordered.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So first things first is accessing New York Times cooking. So you're going to want to start at the library. So you'll go to hcplc.org. Then you'll tap that learning and research tile that's going to be at the top. And then once you're on the learning and research page, you're going to want to go to the news and magazine tile there. It's got the man with the newspaper and the little girl there. And then once you're on that page, you're going to want to select New York Times. So there's a tile on the bottom that has that, the New York Times, introducing New York Times cooking and games. And once you click that, it takes you to our New York Times landing page. Now on that page, you can go to New York Times cooking on the bottom and you can select that. And what it's going to do is it's going to prompt you to create an account with the New York Times. So all you'll need to do for that is to have your email ready and to have a password ready. So you'll go ahead and select the New York Times cooking, and it's going to trigger you to create your account. So there's your email address, there's your password. It's just making sure all that stuff. It's going to have you create an account, at which point they'll send you an email with a code to verify that it's you, and they'll have you put this code onto another page that'll pop up for you. They just want to make sure it's you. Once that's been created, you are all set and you have a free account with the New York Times. Hip, hip, hooray. Obviously, if you already have an account, you can totally skip this step. You don't have to worry about it. But we thought we would just break this down for everyone at home who is might be a little bit confused about making an account with the New York Times. So now
you do only have to do that once, which is awesome. So that New York Times account creation, once you get that set up, you are good to go. You just have to get the new code when you're ready for a new access.
Yep, Lisa is right. It's a one-time only type of deal, and at that point, you just have to get a new code every time you want to get free access to the New York Times cooking. So let's get into the New York Times cooking. So go ahead and click New York Times cooking again. It's going to bring you to that little redeem code there. It's a little mix of letters and numbers and random stuff. Click redeem, and then it's going to have you log into your account like we already created. Once you've logged in, it's going to bring you to a page that tells you that your access code is valid and for how long for it and what account, so your email address. And then at the bottom, you can click Explore Recipes. And once you click Explore Recipes, that brings you into New York Times cooking. Yay! How exciting. I'm very excited for you guys. I'm a big fan of this platform. So now that we're in New York Times cooking, let's go ahead and talk about what we're looking at here. So obviously this is the home page. Typically there is, yes, a very big picture of food here. Looks delicious. And it's here to encourage you and inspire you to cook something. That's the recipe of the day. At the top, they have what would you like to cook in their search bar. And then there's also, it changes. Right now on that picture, it says holiday. Sometimes it might say Lunar New Year, like around this time of year. Then there's your grocery list and then your recipe box. We will get to those later. I just want to cover some interesting things here on the main page for us before we go further. So there are 5 categories or so that come up on this home page. The first one is the New York Times Culinary newsletter, or What to Cook. And this is editor Sam Sifton's email newsletter to readers of cooking that has recipe suggestions, food tips, also entertaining tips as well. And then as you scroll down further, there's another one called Recipes We Think You'll Love. This will be generated once you have recipes saved to your recipe box. So if you don't see it right now, if you're following along at home after making your account, don't worry. Once you start adding recipes to your recipe box, which we'll talk about later, you'll see them pop up in some suggested recipes in that section. So underneath that
kind of like social media, that's kind of like social media markets us, products that they think we're going to buy based on what we like on our social media profile. Their algorithm is going to pick up which recipes we tend to look at and suggest new ones based on what we've added to our recipe box.
Oh yeah, Lisa explains it perfectly. That's exactly what you'll see popping up there. So it's going to be really fun to see what cooking things that you might be interested in creating at home. So after that is trending recipes, and these are recipes that are popular with other users. They're new foods, new techniques that are on the rise, and so these are recipes that they've created for you that might be a little bit more accessible for you to do at home. More from editors. Right after that one, these are editor selected recipes for the adventurous foodie, or maybe these are just personal favorites of theirs that they want to share with you. It's a real mixed bag. And then lastly, what I think is my favorite section is Master the Basics. You don't know where to start? No problem. The New York Times Cooking has got you covered. You don't know how to hold a knife or chop something? They'll show you how to do it. They have videos, they have tutorials, basic recipes, how to make the perfect scrambled eggs, how to make a pavlova if you want. They have the basics of cooking and preparation there. It's a really great start for someone who's a burgeoning cook and they don't really know what they're doing. So I highly recommend taking a look at that. And that is it for the home page. We got a lot happening with that page right there. All right, so let's talk about the search and results we have here. So the search bar, like we said earlier, is at the top of the page, and you can use keywords. So right here on our slide, we have hot chocolate. It's pretty indicative of what we're working on later, but you can put something like beans as a recipe, and it'll bring you all different types of recipe for beans. You can put in something like Indian if you want some more cultural foods. It'll bring results for you that are related to that. On the left-hand side of that same screen, and now here on the slide, we have it broken up just so it's easier for you to see. But on the left-hand side, they're gonna have ways for you to filter your results. There's the meal types. So maybe you're just cooking for yourself, or you're wanting to make something easy, or you want something for dinner, you can filter the results like that. There's diets on that side as well. So maybe you're trying to be careful with your gluten intolerances, or you're trying to cut out dairy. And you can also filter the results like that. It's really wonderful, really handy, and it really allows you to customize the tools and customize the recipes that you add to your recipe box. Okay, so let's talk about the grocery list. So you can add the ingredients from your recipes onto the grocery list. It'll add the ingredients just as they are. So if it's like 3/4 cup of sugar, it's gonna add it to there like that. And it's great. You can remove the items as needed as you pick up. If you go grocery shopping, you can access this from your smartphone or your smart device. So you can download the New York Times app, log in with the New York Times information that you just created, get that free access code, pop onto your app, have your grocery list there, and then go to the grocery store and figure out what you need to get. So it's a really handy and a really easy tool, and you can remove and add as needed. So and then after that, we have the recipe box, which is a really great feature. So the recipe box that allows you to add different recipes from the New York Times. This is a snapshot of one of my recipe boxes that I have here. So I've got the Mexican hot chocolate there, as you can see on the screen, and a couple of different variances. The fun thing too is you can add recipes from different websites onto here, and it's essentially it's just copying and pasting the URL. That's what that one there is with that has a really generic looking picture on there. That's what that is I just copied and pasted that from a different website. They guide you through it. There are screen prompts to help you out with that. So it's really great for you to keep all of your recipes in one area if you're really trying to work on some new recipes for yourself. And it's really wonderful. So let's go ahead and talk about the recipe page itself. So you'll see here a picture of the final product. Don't worry if your final product does not look like that. Mine never does, but it tastes delicious. So I don't want anyone giving me flack about that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the recipe picture. There's the author itself for the recipe. You can select the author name. It's underlined. It's a hyperlink. So it takes you to a results page with all of the recipes that person has created. And alternatively, in the search bar, you can also type in your favorite recipe creator, and it'll bring up all of the results for all of their recipes. But anyways, that's a quick way to get to their recipes. And then under that is the amount of time it'll take to cook it and prep it. There's also the rating, and then how many servings it creates. So there are the ingredients page right there. And underneath the ingredients, there is a way for you to add things to your grocery list. But also there is the substitution guide. So this is really nice. Big fan of substitutions right here because I don't always have the ingredients for what the recipe entails. I don't feel like going out and leaving my house to get them all the time. I have a certain time of the week that I pick up my groceries. Sometimes I just kind of have to wing it at home. So the substitution guide is really great for you to do exactly just that. You can click on that link and they have literally a whole page breaking down all of the ingredients that you can switch out and substitute it for and still have a very comparable and delicious meal. Or maybe the recipe is still really delicious, but there's a couple of ingredients that you cannot tolerate. And that's a great way to use that guide to see what you can switch out, have something really delicious. There's the preparation there, step by step, telling you how to make it. And then underneath that, there are cooking notes. So these cooking notes can be public or they can be private. They can be private, so you can keep track of how you did with this recipe. They can be public, so you can share with other people. And then you can also take a look to see what other people have said about the recipe and see what input they may have regarding the flavoring or maybe the spices or the seasonings that they use. Maybe they didn't cook it for as long, maybe they cooked it for even longer. Maybe there's variances between ovens and stoves and things like that. So that's a really great resource for you to check out. They also have more recipes after that. The New York Times has over 19,000 recipes. They want you to cook, and then cook again. So you'll have here a list of tags based on the recipe, and you can click those tags and it brings you a results page that has similar recipes with that. They have your recently viewed recipes. They have a cooking guide to help you figure out how to make these recipes. They'll suggest recipes based on what you have open at the moment, and everything that they have is there for you to cook, and they want you to get started ASAP, and they want you to use those recipes. And we want you to get cooking too. I would like to get cooking more often. I've already used some recipes from the New York Times, and it's been wonderful and delicious. And then that's the recipe page. So that's really just it, a place for you to explore. And I think the moment that we have all been waiting for, which is the Mexican hot chocolate. Yay! Absolutely wonderful, delicious. Yes, big fan of it here. So just like we saw on the other recipe, we got the duration and time. It's a 4-cup yield, and all 4 cups of that were delicious and rich and chocolatey. I will say that this came out very rich. This was a whole meal. It was a whole meal, yes. It calls for 4 cups of whole milk. You got your cinnamon sticks, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then 6 ounces of dark chocolate. Excuse me, 8 ounces of dark chocolate. We use chocolate chips. We just figured it's more accessible. We didn't have a cutting board, so we didn't have a place to chop it up. and the
We
chips are
also
easy.
wanted to highlight that, recipes are going to give you a guideline for the type of product, but there's a lot of variance there. So just because a recipe calls for, a single block of artisanal fancy chocolate, doesn't mean you can't make this with a bag of Jardelli's chocolate chips that you picked up at Walmart at, on your way home from work because you wanted some hot chocolate. Not everyone is able to manipulate a knife where they can chop a block like that. Sometimes it's an accessibility thing, so don't be afraid to play with it and use what tools you have at your disposal.
Yeah, I think Lisa, you made a good point in that we picked out this recipe because I think it's something that's very accessible and easy to work around. You don't have to use whole milk. You can use almond milk if you want. You can use a different type of dairy alternative or sugar alternative, but we made it straight with ours. But you can really work it, fix it the way you want. If you want to add chilies, you can add chilies. We were both upset over the fact that we did not have chilies in this recipe, which someone in the comments did mention that they went ahead and added chilies for this recipe. So another thing I want to note real quick before we queue up the video is that Lisa and I did not have a whisk. We had a spatula. Sometimes when you have an apartment, your new place, and you don't have all the ingredients, that's okay. Or the tools that you need to use, that's okay. We use what we had. Traditionally, this could also be used with a molinillo. I don't have a molinillo. I would like to get one after this, and I think Lisa would as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I think that's enough talking for me for right now. We're gonna go ahead and queue up the video, and I'll talk a little bit through that as well. Very excited for it. Oh, delicious.
There we go. Let's get that video loaded up. Oh, so we've got our pot out here. We color coordinated it with Carissa's sweater.
It really was a yellow day. Yellow sweater, yellow spatula, yellow pot.
Yeah, we fancy, we match. So this
So
was a lot of stirring, Carice. How did your arm feel after this one?
oh, I felt like I had a real workout. I, I really wanted hot chocolate, so I picked this. That's one of the many reasons I picked this. And I was like, how bad can it be? And it was pretty rough on the arms there, but it was kind of worth it in the end. I would totally do it again. Um,
I will say, like, the recipe does say to use a whisk or a molinillo, and it probably wouldn't have been quite as much stirring if we had had one. Um,
yeah.
so that's, when you substitute, sometimes you have to adjust how much effort you put into it. I'll say that it calls for the molinillo or a whisk, but me personally, when I redid this recipe at home, when I was making it myself, immersion blender. The immersion blender was where it's at. So if you're lucky enough to have one, I just got one for Christmas this year, finally, after so many years. Um, but the immersion blender really made this part super easy. But just remember to take out your cinnamon sticks first so they don't go zooming.
Mm. Unless you're someone who likes to chew on cinnamon sticks, I don't know if that's a thing. I hope it's not a thing. Please be safe out there.
Yeah, I feel like your dentist would not be a fan of that.
Yeah, my mom's a dental hygienist. She would discount. She would not be a fan of that. She would probably be mad at me.
Oh, there's the pour. Are we ready for it? Oh,
Oh
look
my
at how
God.
rich that is. So decadent.
I think the recipe writer, she said that they'll serve this with churros. It comes from like a
Yeah.
specific, really famous churro hot chocolate place in Mexico, and I can see why. I kind of wish we had like cookies or something to dip it in because it
Right?
was so good.
But well, like I love the idea of dipping churros in it and having it like that. But I feel like I could only have like one or two bites before I was just like,
Sugar overload.
yeah. I
I agree.
but see that's where we get into if they had included some spice and chiles in the recipe,
Mhm.
I think that might have helped cut through some of that richness. Oh, that was
I
a
agree.
beautiful pour.
That was Lisa
But
pouring it,
see,
by the way.
but you see, you know, the New York Times has fancy staging for theirs. Let me close out the video here and come back to my screen. All right, so we've got the picture in the background here of the menu on the right with the frothy chocolate on it. On the left, it's kind of staged there. And we've got, you know, the beautiful New York Times picture of the finished product there. So as you saw, even with my very careful pouring and fancy staging, I still got splatters all over that beautiful cup. Food's meant to be eaten, not looked at. So while pretty's great, you know, sometimes you do what you got to do. All right, are we ready for, pop back over to the next slide. There we go.
Alrighty, so we want to continue the experience. The first thing is we want you to check out Gale OneFile Culinary Arts. This is a great place to find articles, images, and videos from major cooking and nutrition magazines, newspapers, and journals. If you want more information on the science of chocolate, this is a great place to check it out for. You can scan that QR code on the screen, or you can go to hcplc.org/DIY.
I use the Gale Culinary for a lot of our programs. We had several food themed ones towards the end of the year.
Mmm. That's a really good resource. That's a real place where you can really jump down a rabbit hole with that one. I've been enjoying
Oh
checking
yeah.
that one out a lot. Yeah. And so our next experience that we want you all to continue is borrowing a GoPro camera. This video was brought to you by the GoPros in the library system. What?
We
You
totally
didn't know
checked
that we
out a
had that.
GoPro. We
Mhm.
did. We checked it out I picked it up from the C. Blythe Andrews Library. There's a bunch of locations that have them. I checked it out on my regular card, just like everyone else. This is not fancy librarian only technology. You know, I just went as Lisa over to that library, checked out the GoPro, and brought it with us when we were filming. I thought it'd be great to use it to get a nice point of view angle where, you know, I wouldn't have to use my very fancy webcam to possibly drop it. The GoPros are built for that. They're tough, they're rugged, they're built for taking a licking and keep on ticking.
Yeah. So if you want to take it out for a little hiking trip, or if you want to go ahead and make your own cooking video, it's a great resource to have. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to hcplc.org/GoPro. That has information all on the locations that you can borrow it from, what the borrowing policies for it are for. We also have books in the catalog all about how to use a GoPro and how to set up a really nice shot. So I hope y'all take the time to go ahead and take a look at that and maybe make some fun adventures yourself.
So we're ready for the Q&A. So if you have not yet, get those questions typed into the questions box so that we can answer them for you while we're live. We would love to be able to do that while we're live on the air. If not, we can always get back to you afterwards. But yeah, get those questions in and we'll chat through it. Let us know if you've used this already. Have you tried it out before? Is this a new resource to you that you haven't had a chance to use yet? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to kind of get an idea of where you're starting. So I'll say before this program, I knew that we had it. I had looked at it once in a while um, just to kind of make sure I could help the folks at home use it if they asked me about it. But I didn't really dive in too deeply with it until recently when we were getting ready for this program. And I gotta say, I was kind of impressed with all the subtly built-in accessibility features that they have with it. So the substitutions, super easy. Like they don't make you jump through hoops to try to figure out how to modify a recipe. It's
Mhm.
right there. It's built into all of it. And you were pointing out the back to basics or the basics classes and videos that they have. Hugely important. Not everyone is privileged enough to grow up in a home where cooking is a day-to-day activity and might not have had a chance to build those skills at home. You're starting out with your own place. Where do you start from if you haven't grown up with it? Well, they do a really good job of breaking down a lot of these fundamental skills that kind of help you make anything else from those key skills. Yeah.
I love that a lot about the New York Times cooking. I've used it already. I actually have already used it twice. Technically, it was the same recipe, but I kind of zhuzhed it up myself a little bit. I made a wine poached pears in a cardamom butter cake. Butter? Yeah, butter cake. I made it for a potluck,
Ooh.
and I made it again for Christmas, and it was pretty delicious. Did have to use them to figure out how to properly slice and core a pear. It didn't grow up in a house where we ate pears like that. It was just
Yeah.
not a part of my childhood. So I had to look it up and see how to do it. And I learned how. Was it messy? Yes, I was a beginner, but that's okay because it came out really delicious. And it was a huge hit. I would totally make it again because it was really easy to
I
make.
bet that was super, super popular. That sounds delicious. It does look like we have a lot of questions from the folks at home, so don't be shy. Let us know what you're thinking. We're gonna keep popping through our slides here. I'm gonna pop over to our contact slide. So, just to keep it going, you couldn't get enough of that beautifully poured hot chocolate. I've got it on the screen too. Don't worry, I've got you. I know you want to see it. I know that's why you're here. You're not here to see us. You're here for the chocolate. I understand. Totally understand. So yeah, if you don't have a question for us right now, if you think of something later, you can always go to our website, hcplc.org. Go to that /contact that has our phone number on it, 813-273-3652. It has our Ask a Librarian function. If you'd rather text or chat with someone, then call them on the phone. Same. But yeah, hcplc.org/contact has all those goodies. If you're wanting more information on upcoming programs, we have another spotlight coming up soon at the beginning of February. That one's going to focus on LinkedIn Learning. So, if you checked out one of our GoPros and maybe you need a class on how to use the GoPro, there's actually some GoPro tutorials on LinkedIn Learning. Or maybe maybe a full course on how to edit those photos and films with the Adobe products that you can also use free at the library. P.S. Yeah, we're going to be doing that one soon. It's going to be on Monday, February 8th, 6 p.m. So I hope you can join us for that one. But other virtual programs and in branch at your local library programs, hcplc.org/events. Reese, thank you so much for coming up with this great idea. I had so much fun working on this one with you. I hope the folks at home had fun with it too and enjoyed it. I would love to know how their recipes turned out and if maybe they kicked it up with some spice. How about you, Carissa? Are you going to do this one again?
Oh, I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to add the chilies because Mama didn't raise a quitter. So I'm going to do it.
Same. All right, folks, we had so much fun. We will see you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye. Friends.